Hi, and welcome to Ask Evette. So, guys, here we're going to be having a chat about Tourette syndrome and a question about what is the psychosomatic stress behind this. Hi guys, Evette Rose here and welcome. So guys, for those of you who are new here, my name is Evette Rose and I'm also the founder and the author of Metaphysical Anatomy, which is a big book of 679 medical elements and the psychosomatic stress of that for adults. And yes, we have the one for kids as well. So that was also just recently released. Now we also have free weekly masterclasses where you can learn how to improve your quality of life and move through life challenges with ease and with grace. And they are absolutely free. So you can go jump on at evetterose.com and register. We also have our intuitive body workshops. So this is where you actually learn how to read the body like a book. And we have our intuitive spirit workshop, which is also new and it's so much fun, where I teach you how to meet you guides, work with them, connect with them, heal with them, how to work with animals, heal animals, and also how to kind of like find your own little healing modality on the side as well. And then we also have MAT level 1 healing technique, which is a technique that is behind this big book, which is a trauma release technique that is very gentle and graceful, where you can learn how to improve your quality of life, as well as perhaps maybe friends, or if you want to do this professionally as well as a practitioner, that's a complete option for you there as well. So remember also, if you bring 2 friends, you can come for free. And guys, we always have special deals coming up your way. So now, Tourette syndrome is also a tic syndrome. Now, tics have known to be said that they are more common in people with obsessive compulsive disorder, also known as OCD, and also with autistic spectrum disorder, ASD, and also attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD. Now, this condition has also been linked to damage or abnormalities in the basal ganglia of the brain. Now, people also diagnosed with Tourette syndrome often actually also have both motor tic and also vocal tic. Now, motor tic normally involves, for example, movement, while vocal tics involve sounds or speech. Now, the symptoms actually tends to worsen during periods of excitement. It can be during stress and also anxiety. Now, that already gives us quite a important clue in relationship to psychosomatic stress, which we're going to be diving into in a few minutes. Now, recent studies also have identified that some of these specific gene mutations that might actually also have a role, right? So that now also involves brain chemistry. And what seems to be quite important here, especially the brain chemicals and the glutamate and the serotonin and dopamine. Now, it seems to be that research is showing that the disruption was dopamine effects in the basal ganglia, which is like a network of structures that is responsible for movement. Now, also advanced types of ways that can kind of like give a person a sense of a warning when they might now have a Tourette onset is there's like a burning feeling in their eyes that is only alleviated by blinking. There can also be, for example, like an increasing tension in the muscles that can only be alleviated by stretching or twitching. Now, there can also be, for example, like a dry throat that is only alleviated by grunting or clearing the throat. Now, itching also in, for example, in a limb or a joint, where the only relief is then, of course, achieved by twisting it. So this is very interesting when we're not going to be diving into the psychosomatics of this. So here, right off the bat, when we already start to look at the psychosomatic stress, but also now just the onset of when this is about to start, all these symptoms that are being shown is coming forward in relationship to stress. So now what is really interesting is if we just look at the warning signs or like the potential, signs that will say, hey, there might be a Tourette syndrome episode coming up. It's already very fascinating. That already tells quite a lot about the psychosomatics. So when we, for example, look at just like that burning feeling in the eyes, and that can only be alleviated by, for example, blinking, burning in the eyes normally would relate in this case to what is it that you're seeing that's causing you to feel so angry that you're not saying it. It's making you really upset. It can also, for example, be that there's now, here we also already said, that increasing tension in the muscles that can be alleviated by stretching or twisting. Now that will say, for example, that there's a part of the body that needs to act out, that part of the body needs to do something, right? To discharge of the stress that is stuck in that. Now, what you can do, for example, in this case is you can have a look at your quick reference guide and see what is the psychosomatic stress in relationship to that part of the body, because that can tell you what is the psychosomatic block stress. Now, the other part that you can also do now here in this case is when you connect to that part of the body when it needs to move, right? You can pretend that that part of the body has a voice. And in that moment, as it needs to just, when you need to stretch, when you need to twist it, ask it, what do you need to say? What is that jolt of energy or that voice that comes there with you? Because something needs to be expressed, right? And there's a reason why it's in that part of the body and not in a different part of the body as well. And of course, now this would mean even if there's an injury and that injury is now due to maybe an accident or something, and now that part of the body is now affected, it would still mean the exact same thing, because that part of the body was affected because that was your most psychosomatic weakest point in the body. That's also why, for example, you could put a person in a car and you can put them in the exact same car accident. There's a high chance that different parts of their body will be hurt. And the reason is because of different emotional states that they're in, causing different weaknesses in the body to be more susceptible to injury rather than other parts of the body. And so now and this is exactly the same type of scenario now, for example, even if you exclude the injury, it also counts for the psychosomatic messages and where and how it's held. Now, another part also, when we look at a dry throat, for example, this can be in relationship to something that needs to be said, but there's a fear of being attacked or there's a fear of confrontation. So there's like holding it in. I need protection in relationship to what it is that I need to say, right? I need someone to cover for me so that I can say what I need to say. So that's normally what the psychosomatic would be for behind that one. Now, also, for example, like an itching limb or a joint, what can also happen in this case is that who or what is irritating you. Okay, so there's something that's deeply, deeply irritating you, and the area where you feel this itch, if you look at your quick reference guide, you're going to see the psychosomatic stress in relationship to who or what is irritating you. It's maybe someone or something or your environment, but something is just creating like that frustration, but you're not expressing that frustration. Now, another interesting observation here also is the ganglion, right? So that part in the brain is also affected. Now, this is the collection of like neural bodies that's found in the voluntary autonomic branches of the peripheral nervous system. And that's also known as the PNS. But now the ganglia can also now, for example, here be thought as, say, it's like the synaptic relay stations between neurons, right? So the somatic nervous system, the SNS, and the autonomic nervous system, the ANS, are both part of the peripheral nervous system. Now, the SNS controls the voluntary actions, for example, such as walking, and the ANS is now responsible for the control of the vital functions, such as the heartbeat, breathing, and it can also be involved in, for example, acute responses where it works with the endocrine system, and it prepares the body for fight and flight. Now, guys, this gives you already a tremendous amount of insight and already a dead giveaway in relationship to the psychosomatics. So what we're looking at here is, this can go two ways, right? This is now a condition that was triggered in your life through a certain traumatic stressful event, or you have an inherited pattern from an ancestor that was triggered in your lifetime with similar levels of intensity of stress. And it triggered their unresolved actions or reactions that they wanted to perhaps act out on or do or say. It could be that there was an accident, there was an injury, and the emotional stress and the psychosomatic that the person was in at the time now is showing in the area where the tic or the Tourette's is now showing up. Right? So it's really interesting how all this coming together. The more severe the Tourette syndrome is, the more you know ancestral trauma is coming forward, because the body is so saturated in relationship to storing and holding this trauma that it needs to get out. It needs to be released. It needs to be resolved. That is how evolution works, right? If something doesn't get resolved, it becomes problematic. So there's certain psychosomatic patterns that's been going on again and again and again that needs to be dealt with. Now, what can also, for example, create a lot of tremendous stress here is even a traumatic birth. So it really depends when the Tourette started and what was the emotional stress at that time. Because right now, a person's, how can I say, it's like a person's subconscious thought right? In relationship to something that they didn't do or say, or something that maybe angered them, right? There's a level of unfairness, helplessness, powerlessness, loss of control, or injustice that was never resolved. No resolution was found for it. And the body is now stuck in that state of lack of resolution, right? So the way that the biology of the body knows how to resolve it is to do what? Discharge of the energy. And now when this energy needs to be discharged, it becomes blocked. And when it becomes blocked, it creates that jolt, it creates that itchiness, that urge, that twitch, that aggravation, because there's so much energy coming forward, but there's an actual block because there was a disruption of some sort. So normally what this can mean is also that there was maybe a traumatic event where a person was very stressed. Maybe they were doing something, and in that moment, something happened that was extremely upsetting, or the body went into shock and it locked in the trauma in these different psychosomatic parts of the body as well. Now, all these are possibilities. So guys, there you have it. Thank you so much for joining me. And until next time, be the light that you are. Thank you guys for joining me here. And also remember to subscribe to our math membership website. You can check out so much more. There's so many free healing courses there as well. Go to evetterose.com, see all the free master classes and events that we have coming up. There's always something happening on our platform. And we love to hear from you for the Ask Evette episodes, but also for the psychosomatic patterns that you would love for us to talk about, especially when it comes to these books, the research that's in it. And there's so much to be learned and so much to be shared as well. So I love your questions. Let us know what's on your mind. Let us know what you would love me to address as well. Life challenges, it's endless. Guys, thank you so much for being here with me today. And remember to subscribe so that you can stay up to date with the latest and greatest videos that's coming out just for you. Until next time, be the light that you are.